Life in apartment 304 rarely stayed quiet for more than 24 hours. A few days after the FBI fiasco, a new storm arrived in the form of a brown leather briefcase and an impeccably tailored three-piece suit. Janet had been asked by her boss at the flower shop to entertain an executive from the East Coast, Walter Nessel. "He's a big deal, Jack," Janet had explained, her voice tinged with the stress of corporate expectation. "A day layover, a quick dinner, and he's gone. It's purely professional." "Professional?" Chrissy had piped up, tilting her head. "Is that like when a guy asks to see your stamp collection but doesn't actually have any stamps?" "Chrissy, please," Janet groaned. But the night of the date became a comedy of errors before it even began. Jack, still traumatized by the FBI agent's previous visit, was convinced that any knock at the door was a potential arrest warrant. When Walter Nessel arrived, Jack was halfway through a Bavarian cream pie that he intended to use as a stress relief mechanism. The doorbell rang. Jack dove behind the sofa. "He's here," Chrissy whispered, excitement bubbling in her voice. When Janet opened the door, she wasn't greeted by one man, but three. Walter Nessel stood in the center, flanked by, to everyone's horror, Special Agents Roth and Banning. "Oh, how thoughtful," Chrissy exclaimed, clasping her hands. Janet turned pale. "One of these guys isn't Walter, and neither is the other one." "FBI," Agent Roth said, his voice as dry as a desert bone. "We're looking for Jack Tripper. Again." "He's not here," Janet shouted, perhaps a bit too loudly. "He's on the run. He goes all the time. He's in the kitchen." Jack, hearing his location compromised, scrambled from the kitchen to the bedroom, tripping over a rolling pin on the way. While Janet tried to navigate a date with a confused Walter Nessel, who found the presence of FBI agents intense but oddly reassuring. For a security-conscious building, Jack was in the bedroom, frantically searching for another disguise. Chapter 8. The Stunning Transformation. "I can't go out there as myself," Jack whispered to the mirror, his heart hammering against his ribs. "They'll ask about the poker game. They'll ask about Bippo. They'll see the Bavarian cream on my chin." Desperation is the mother of invention. And in Jack Tripper's case, invention usually involved a blonde wig. In the living room, Walter Nessel was trying to make conversation with Chrissy, who he mistakenly believed was his date. "I am?" Chrissy asked. "I thought I was just Janet's roommate." Janet, meanwhile, was being grilled by Agent Banning about Jack's associations. Just as the tension threatened to snap, a door opened. A woman stepped out. She was tall, with flowing blonde hair, a floral dress that was slightly too tight across the shoulders, and a walk that suggested she was fighting a losing battle with her high heels. "Oh, hello," the woman said, her voice a forced, breathy falsetto. "I'm Jack's sister, Jacqueline. I just arrived from the East Coast, or maybe the West Coast, one of the coasts." The room went silent. Jacqueline took a seat, trying to keep her knees together. Larry Dallas, who had just walked in looking for a spare beer, froze at the sight of the new girl. "Larry, don't," Janet hissed. "Don't what?" Larry asked, his eyes widening. "She's gorgeous. She's strong. Is that my aftershave she's wearing?" The evening migrated to the Regal Beagle, where the confusion only deepened. Walter Nessel, convinced he had met the woman of his dreams in Jacqueline, began competing with Larry for her attention. The FBI agents watched the entire scene with growing bewilderment, eventually realizing that their character reference for Bippo Miller was currently wearing a wig and arguing about whether or not she was a one-night stand type of girl. "Mr. Tripper," Agent Roth said, stepping up to the bar where Jacqueline was nursing a scotch. "We know it's you. The heels are a dead giveaway. You're walking like a duck with a back injury." Jack slumped, the wig slipping to the side. "It's over, isn't it?" "The security clearance for Bippo is approved," Roth said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "But we're going to need a very detailed report on why you felt the need to wear a floral print to a federal inquiry." Chapter 9. The morning after the storm. The next morning, the apartment was quiet. The wigs were put away. The heels were hidden in the back of the closet, and the scent of Bavarian cream pie had faded. Jack sat at the small kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee. Janet walked in, her hair slightly messy, wearing a soft robe. She sat down across from him. "So," she said, her voice low, "Walter Nessel thinks he's in love with your sister." Jack groaned. "He's a nice guy, Janet. A little weird, but nice. I think he's going to be disappointed when Jacqueline doesn't return his calls." Janet laughed, a genuine, warm sound that filled the kitchen. Jack looked at her, and for a moment, the jokes and the disguises didn't matter. "I'm sorry, Janet. I ruined your professional date. I ruined everything with my paranoia." Janet reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Her skin was warm, and her touch was steady. "You didn't ruin anything. My boss called. Walter thought the night was unforgettable and the most exciting thing to happen in California since the gold rush. I think my job is safe." They sat there for a moment, their hands joined in the quiet morning light. The barrier between just roommates and something more felt thinner than ever. "We really are quite a team, aren't we?" Jack asked. "The cutest and the craziest," Janet whispered, echoing the card Jack had found weeks ago. The door burst open, and Chrissy stumbled in, holding one shoe. "Janet, I found it." I asked myself, if I were a shoe, where would I be? And I was right there under the sofa. The spell was broken, but the warmth remained. Jack stood up, clearing his throat and squeezing Janet's hand one last time before heading to the stove. "Well," Jack said, his voice returning to its usual cheerful cadence, "since the FBI isn't looking for me today, how about some pancakes? I promise, no wigs involved." "Make them blueberry," Chrissy cheered. As the sun rose higher over Santa Monica, the three of them gathered around the table. The world outside was full of landlords, special agents, and predatory neighbors. But inside 304, there was a sanctuary. It was a place of rendezvous, of laughter, and of a love that didn't need a label to be real. Chapter 10. The Neighborly Menace. Lana Shields did not believe in boundaries. To her, a wall was merely a suggestion, and a locked door was a challenge. Since moving into the apartment next to 304, she had transformed the hallway into her personal runway and Jack's life into a game of hide and seek where he was always the seeker and she was always the prize. "Jack, honey, I've got a leak." Lana's voice would drift through the walls at 3 in the morning. "Call a plumber, Lana," Jack would shout back, burying his head under a pillow. "But I want a chef," she'd purr. Everything tastes better when it's well seasoned. The constant pressure was taking its toll. Jack found himself sneaking in and out of his own home through the service elevator, wearing a trench coat and sunglasses, even in the sweltering California heat. But the real problem wasn't just Lana, it was Ralph Furley. Furley, convinced that he and Lana were destined for a Romanian romance, had become obsessed with protecting her from other men, specifically Jack. He began patrolling the halls with a flashlight and a whistle, wearing a safari outfit that made him look like a lost tourist in a concrete jungle. "Tripper, I see you," Furley would shout, catching Jack in the hall. "Stay away from 302. That's a delicate flower in there, and you're just a weed." "I'm just trying to get my mail, Mr. Furley," Jack would protest. The tension reached a boiling point when Lana decided to host a housewarming gala and insisted that Jack cater it. "If you don't," she whispered, cornering him by the trash chutes, "I'll tell Furley that you've been making late-night visits to my bedroom." "But I haven't," Jack gasped. "He won't care." Lana smiled, her eyes gleaming with predatory delight. "He's a man of passion, Jack. He'll have you evicted faster than you can say. Chouette à la mode." Chapter 11. The Moonlight Gala. The night of Lana's gala was a frantic display of culinary ambition and romantic jealousy. Jack was tasked with creating a buffet for 50 people in a kitchen the size of a postage stamp. Janet and Chrissy, realizing the danger their living arrangement was in, agreed to help. "I'll handle the appetizers," Janet said, her jaw set. "Chrissy, you, stay away from the punch." "I like the punch," Chrissy pouted. As the party began, the apartment next door was filled with the glitterati of Santa Monica, mostly people Lana had met at various cocktail bars. Furley was there, of course, wearing a velvet tuxedo with ruffles that seemed to have a life of their own. "Lana, my dear," Furley beamed, handing her a single, wilted carnation. "I'm here to ensure your safety. If any young punks try anything, I've got my whistle." "You're so brave, Ralph," Lana said, her eyes already scanning the room for Jack. The night took a dramatic turn when Lana made her move. While Jack was replenishing the shrimp cocktail, she pulled him into a dark corner of her balcony. "Jack, I'm tired of games," she whispered, the moonlight catching the diamonds at her throat. "Forget the girls. Forget the rent. I can take care of you. We could move to Malibu. You'd have a kitchen with a view of the stars." Jack felt the walls closing in. "Lana, you're a magnificent woman, but I like my life. I like the chaos. I like my roommates." "Roommates?" Lana laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You mean the florist? She's a nice girl, Jack, but she's a carnation. I'm an orchid." What Lana didn't see was Janet, standing in the doorway with a tray of empty glasses. The hurt in her eyes was sharp, but there was something else there too, a fierce, protective anger. "The carnation has a thorn, Lana," Janet said, stepping onto the balcony. Chapter 12. Rain on the Pier.